China just shattered the world record book 44 times, and most people have no idea how they pulled it off. You're about to see engineering feats that redefined what's physically possible on this planet. We're talking projects so massive, they don't just break records, they create entirely new categories the rest of the world didn't know existed. These aren't just buildings and bridges. These are monuments to human ambition operating at a scale that makes other countries' megaprojects look like practice runs. Let's start with the most powerful machine ever built to harness nature itself. Largest hydroelectric power station, 3 Gorges Dam, 22,500 megawatts. That's the 3 Gorges Dam, the most powerful hydroelectric station ever built. To understand that scale, it generates enough electricity to replace 50 million tons of coal every year. But here's the insane part. The reservoir holds so much water, 40 trillion kilograms, that it actually slowed Earth's rotation. Scientists measured it. The dam changed how fast the planet spins. One structure, one river, enough power to run entire countries. But controlling water at that scale was just the beginning of China's war against geography itself. World's only continental-scale water transfer, South-North Water Transfer Project. China's moving entire rivers across the continent. The South-North Water Transfer Project is the largest water diversion system ever attempted, and no other country has even tried to build anything close. 3 massive canal systems stretching over 2,800 miles. That's longer than the distance from New York to Los Angeles. They're literally reversing the flow of geography, pumping billions of gallons from the wet south to the parched north every single year. The engineering challenge? You're fighting gravity, moving water uphill through mountains, under cities, across earthquake zones. The eastern route alone lifts water through 23 pumping stations, each one powerful enough to drain an Olympic pool in seconds. 448 million people depend on this water. Without it, Beijing and dozens of northern cities would be running dry. And they didn't stop at reshaping rivers. They pointed their ambition at the stars. Largest dish radio telescope, FAST, 500 meters across. FAST is the largest single-dish radio telescope ever built, nearly twice the collecting area of the previous record holder. It can detect radio signals so faint, it could hear a cell phone from a planet dozens of light years away. They carved it into a natural mountain depression and lined it with 4,450 panels that reshape in real time. China built the most sensitive ear pointed at the cosmos, listening for signals no other telescope can hear. But while FAST reached into space, another project was conquering distance on Earth in a way that seemed physically impossible. Longest bridge in the world, Danyang-Kunshan Grand Bridge. 102 miles of continuous bridge. The Danyang-Kunshan Grand Bridge is so long you could drive for an hour and a half at highway speed and still be on the same structure. It's not just long, it's engineered to carry high-speed trains at 200 miles per hour over rivers, lakes, canals, and rice paddies. They built it because going around wasn't an option. Going through meant bridging everything. 10,000 workers, 4 years, 2,500 concrete pillars, holding up a ribbon of steel and concrete that redefined what bridge even means. But if you think that's excessive, wait until you see what they built just to host the Olympics. Largest steel stadium structure, Beijing National Stadium. Bird's nest. 42,000 tons of twisted steel with no straight lines. The Bird's Nest isn't just the largest steel stadium ever built, it's the most structurally complex. Every beam curves, every angle is deliberate, and the entire lattice supports itself without a single interior column blocking sightlines. The engineering nightmare? All that steel had to withstand earthquakes in one of China's highest-risk seismic zones. They designed it to flex, not break. The lattice can shift and absorb shocks that would crack conventional stadiums. It became the icon of the 2008 Olympics, proving you could build something wildly artistic at impossible scale and make it earthquake-proof. And the Bird's Nest wasn't the only stadium pushing records that year. World's only flower-opening retractable roof. Keizong Forest Sports City Arena. 8 steel petals that bloom like a flower. No other stadium on Earth has a retractable roof like this, and no one's replicated it since. Each petal weighs hundreds of tons, and unfolds in perfect synchronization, opening the entire arena in just 8 minutes. China built a stadium that transforms itself art and engineering, combined into something nobody else has figured out how to copy. But while stadiums impress the world, China was quietly building a transportation network that would make every other country's rail system look obsolete. Largest high-speed rail network, China High-Speed Rail System. 45,000 kilometers of high-speed rail. That's more than the rest of the world's high-speed networks combined. China didn't just build a rail system, they built more high-speed track than every other country on Earth added together. Trains running at 200 miles per hour connect over 300 cities. You can board in Beijing and be in Shanghai 800 miles away in 4.5 hours. The entire country became accessible at speeds that used to be reserved for airplanes. And they didn't stop at flat terrain, they took rail somewhere. No one thought trains could survive. Highest railway in the world, Qinghai Tibet Railway, 16,000 feet above sea level. The Qinghai Tibet Railway is the highest train line ever built, running through elevations where the air is so thin, passengers need supplemental oxygen just to breathe. They laid track across permafrost that shifts and melts, through mountain passes where temperatures swing 100 degrees, and over terrain so hostile that construction workers needed pressure chambers to survive. 500 miles of the route sits above 15,000 feet higher than most commercial planes fly at cruising altitude. China connected Tibet to the rest of the country by building a railway where the atmosphere itself fights human survival. But high-altitude trains weren't the only Olympic legacy pushing engineering boundaries. Largest ETFE-clad building, Beijing National Aquatic Center Water Cube. 100,000 square meters, covered in translucent bubbles. The water cube is the largest building ever wrapped in ETFE, a material so light it weighs less than 1% of glass, but captures more solar energy than any traditional facade. 4,000 individual bubble panels create a structure that looks like frozen foam but performs like a solar collector. It heats itself, lights itself, and uses 30% less energy than a conventional aquatic center of the same size. China turned advanced materials science into an Olympic icon that's still the world's most efficient bubble-wrapped building. And if you think bubble wrap is cutting edge, they took construction technology even further. Largest 3D printed structure, Vulcan Pavilion. Layer by layer, robots built the largest 3D printed structure on Earth. The Vulcan Pavilion proved you could print architecture at full scale. No molds, no scaffolding, just additive manufacturing, creating complex curves that would be impossible with traditional construction. The breakthrough wasn't just size, it was speed and waste reduction. What normally takes months of formwork and material waste happened in days with near zero scrap. Every curve, every structural element printed exactly as designed. China demonstrated the future of construction. Buildings that print themselves. But printed buildings were just experiments. The real speed record was already carrying passengers at velocities that defy belief. Fastest commercial train, Shanghai Maglev. 268 miles per hour with paying passengers on board. The Shanghai Maglev is the fastest commercial train service on the planet, using magnetic levitation to float above the track with zero friction. It covers the 19 miles from Pudong Airport to the city in 7 minutes. That's faster than most people's morning commute across a single neighborhood. The train doesn't touch the rails, it flies an inch above them, held aloft by electromagnets powerful enough to suspend hundreds of tons. China turned science fiction into daily public transit, running at speeds conventional trains can't physically achieve. And while the Maglev was breaking speed records, China was scaling solar power to levels the world had never imagined. Largest solar power complex, Qinghai Hainan Solar Base. 16 gigawatts of solar capacity spread across desert that stretches beyond what your eyes can see. The Qinghai Hainan Solar Base is the largest concentrated solar power installation on Earth, generating more electricity from the sun than entire countries consume. 7 million solar panels, turning barren wasteland into an energy factory. It produces enough power annually to replace burning 20 million tons of coal, all from photons hitting silicon in one of the emptiest places on the planet. China weaponized the desert, turning sunlight into industrial-scale electricity that dwarfs every other solar project in existence. But solar farms in deserts are one thing. Bridging 55 kilometers of open ocean is another level entirely. Longest sea-crossing bridge, Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge. 55 kilometers of bridge and tunnel crossing open ocean. The Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge is the longest sea-crossing structure ever built, connecting 3 cities across the Pearl River estuary, where typhoons, deep shipping lanes, and saltwater corrosion make construction a nightmare. The engineering genius? They couldn't bridge the entire distance because of air traffic and shipping. So they built islands in the middle of the ocean, dove underwater with massive tunnel sections, then surfaced and continued as a bridge. It's 3 different megaprojects disguised as one. China unified 3 cities by conquering 55 kilometers of ocean that every engineer said was unbridgeable. And if you think that's ambitious, wait until you see what they built for people who just want to catch a flight. Largest airport terminal, Beijing Daxing International Airport. 700,000 square meters under a single roof. Beijing Daxing is the largest airport terminal ever constructed, big enough to fit 98 football fields inside. The starfish design isn't just for looks, it minimizes walking distance, so passengers can reach any gate in 8 minutes or less. 100 million passengers per year, flowing through a building engineered for efficiency at incomprehensible scale. Every gate connects to the central hub. Every corridor optimized to move humans faster than any airport terminal in history. China built a terminal so massive, it required inventing new construction techniques just to hold up the roof. But moving people through airports is easy compared to moving them vertically at record-breaking speeds. Fastest elevator in the world. Shanghai Tower. 20 meters per second, straight up. The Shanghai Tower elevator is the fastest in the world, rocketing passengers from ground level to the observation deck in just 55 seconds. That's covering over 500 meters of vertical distance faster than most people can sprint horizontally. The engineering challenge isn't just speed, it's stopping human ears from rupturing. They developed pressure regulation systems and aerodynamic car designs to prevent the G-forces and air pressure changes from making passengers sick or deaf. China conquered vertical transportation at velocities that turned skyscrapers into rocket launches. And they needed that elevator because the building it serves holds another record entirely. Tallest building in China, Shanghai Tower. 632 meters, twisting into the sky. Shanghai Tower is China's tallest building and the second tallest in the world, a spiraling giant that rotates 120 degrees from base to top to reduce wind loads by 24%. The twist isn't cosmetic, it's survival. At that height, wind forces would rip apart a conventional tower. The spiral design lets air slide past instead of slamming into flat surfaces, making the impossible height structurally viable. China built a skyscraper that corkscrews its way above the clouds, using geometry as a weapon against physics. But towers reaching into the sky pale compared to dams that climb entire mountains. Highest dam in the world, Jinping-I Hydropower Dam, 305 meters tall. Jinping-I is the highest dam ever built, taller than the Eiffel Tower, holding back a reservoir in a narrow mountain gorge where water pressure could pulverize concrete. They engineered it to withstand forces that would obliterate conventional dams. China turned a vertical canyon into the world's tallest wall against gravity and water. But high dams are anchored to bedrock-high bridges hang over nothing but air. Highest bridge in the world, Duge Bridge, 565 meters above the river valley. The Duge Bridge is the highest bridge on Earth, standing taller than any skyscraper, suspended over a chasm that makes vertigo inevitable. The deck sits higher than the tallest point of the One World Trade Center. They strung cables across a void where construction crews needed helicopters just to position the first lines. China bridged a gap that touches the clouds. And bridges weren't the only infrastructure getting extreme upgrades. The entire power grid was being rebuilt at voltages nobody had attempted. World's only ultra-high voltage continental power grid, China UHV Power Transmission Network, 1,100,000 volts transmitted across 3,000 kilometers. China's UHV network is the only ultra-high voltage power grid operating at this scale, moving electricity from remote power plants to coastal cities with half the energy loss of conventional grids. No other country runs power at these voltages over these distances. The engineering challenge is preventing arcing, corona discharge, and insulation breakdown at electrical pressures that turn air into plasma. China built a nervous system for a continent, transmitting gigawatts across distances that make conventional power grids obsolete. And while electricity flowed across land, cargo was flowing through ports operating at speeds humans couldn't match. Most automated port on Earth, Yangshan Deep Water Port. 0 human crane operators. Yangshan is the most automated port ever built. Every container moved by AI-controlled cranes, autonomous trucks, and robotic systems that never sleep, never slow down, never make mistakes. Humans monitor from control rooms kilometers away, while machines orchestrate a ballet of 40-foot containers moving at speeds manual operations can't achieve. China eliminated the human bottleneck in global shipping. And that automation was necessary because the sheer volume flowing through Shanghai broke records on its own. Busiest container port in the world, Port of Shanghai, 49 million TEUs annually. The Port of Shanghai moves more containers than any port on Earth, handling more cargo than the second and third busiest ports combined. Every day, thousands of containers flow in and out, making Shanghai the beating heart of global commerce. China controls the world's supply chain choke point, the port where more goods pass through than anywhere else on the planet. But moving containers was just one energy revolution. Wind power from the ocean was another. Wind, this was no. Largest offshore wind power program, China Offshore Wind Network. Over 30 gigawatts of offshore wind capacity. In recurrenta, 117 US. China's offshore wind program is the largest on Earth, more turbines in the ocean than Europe and the United States combined. Thousands of massive turbines marching into the sea, harvesting wind where it blows strongest. China turned its coastline into a renewable energy factory, generating power at a scale that makes other countries' offshore programs look like pilot projects. And while wind turbines multiplied offshore, onshore cities were building transportation systems that defied geography itself. Longest monorail system, Chongqing Rail Transit. 65 kilometers of elevated monorail weaving between skyscrapers. Chongqing's monorail is the longest in the world, threading through a vertical city built into mountains where traditional subways are impossible. The trains pass through apartment buildings, curve around towers, and navigate terrain no flat city metro could handle. China solved mountain city transportation by building rails that fly above the chaos. But elevated trains were just one solution underground. Another record was being shattered. Busiest metro system, Shanghai Metro. 10 million riders every single day. Shanghai Metro is the busiest underground rail network on Earth, moving more people than the populations of entire cities through over 800 kilometers of tunnels. It's a city beneath the city, operating at a scale that keeps Shanghai from choking on its own population. China built an underground artery system that keeps a megacity's heart beating. And while metros moved millions underground, above water they were combining 3 impossible engineering feats into one. World's only bridge tunnel island mega crossing, Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge. Bridge, tunnel, and artificial island in a single project. The Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge isn't just long, it's the only crossing that transitions from bridge to underwater tunnel via man-made islands built in open ocean. They drop down underwater for 6 kilometers to let ships and planes pass overhead, then resurface to continue as a bridge. China proved you could build in 3 dimensions when 2 dimensions weren't enough. And those artificial islands weren't just transition points. One of them became a port that redefined what artificial could mean. World's only artificial island deepwater megaport, Yangshan Deepwater Port, land created from nothing. Yangshan Port sits on islands that didn't exist before construction, built in open ocean, where water depth allows the largest cargo ships on Earth to dock. They dredged, filled, and constructed an entire port complex in the middle of the sea. China built land where there was only water, then turned it into the world's most automated cargo facility. But creating islands for ports is one thing. Building transparent walkways over chasms is pure psychological warfare. Longest glass-bottom bridge, Qingyuan Glass Bridge. 569 meters of see-through terror. The Qingyuan Glass Bridge is the longest glass-bottomed bridge ever built, forcing you to walk over nothingness with only transparent panels between you and the abyss below. Every step is a test of nerve. China turned fear into tourism, stretching glass farther than anyone thought structurally sound. And if length wasn't terrifying enough, they built one even higher. Highest pedestrian bridge, Zhangjiajie Grand Canyon Glass Bridge, 430 meters above the canyon floor. Zhangjiajie isn't just high, it's the highest glass-bottom pedestrian bridge on Earth, suspended over a chasm that makes looking down feel like skydiving. The transparent deck holds up to 800 people standing on nothing. China engineered fear as an attraction, hanging glass where most bridges use steel. But glass bridges were small scale compared to the machines boring through mountains. Largest tunnel boring machine, Qinliangyu TBM, 16.07 meters in diameter. The Qinliangyu is the largest tunnel boring machine ever built, a rotating monster that chews through solid rock, creating tunnels wide enough to fit a 4-lane highway. The cutting head alone weighs thousands of tons. China built a machine that devours mountains and spits out underground roads. And while machines drilled horizontally, dams were climbing vertically with materials nobody expected. Tallest rock-filled dam, Lianghekou Hydropower Dam, 295 meters of earth and stone. Lianghekou is the tallest rock-filled dam ever constructed, a mountain of engineered rubble that holds back a reservoir through sheer mass and gravity. No concrete, just precisely placed rock, creating a barrier taller than most skyscrapers. China proved you don't need concrete to build the tallest dams on Earth. But some tunnels couldn't just be tall or wide. They had to survive earthquakes while running beneath the Himalayas. Deepest and most extreme railway tunnels, Sichuan Tibet Railway. Tunnels drilled through active earthquake zones beneath the Himalayas. The Sichuan Tibet Railway required boring through geology so violent, tunnels collapsed during construction. They're building rail passages where tectonic plates grind against each other and mountains are still growing. China decided earthquake zones and the world's tallest mountain range weren't good enough reasons to stop. And those extreme tunnels feed into airports that aren't just terminals, they're intermodal hubs operating at unprecedented scale. Largest airport rail integration hub, Beijing Daxing Intermodal Terminal. 6 different transportation modes converging in one building. Beijing Daxing isn't just an airport. It's where high-speed rail, metro, buses, taxis, and private vehicles meet under one roof, moving millions seamlessly between systems. No other airport integrates this many transport types at this scale. China eliminated the friction between air travel and ground transport by building a hub where everything connects. But airports move people. China was also building bridges across ocean distances that seemed impossible. Longest bridge over open sea, Hangzhou Bay Bridge. 36 kilometers exposed to typhoons and waves. Hangzhou Bay Bridge crosses open ocean, where weather conditions can destroy conventional structures. They engineered it to flex with wind, resist salt corrosion, and survive storm surge that would obliterate normal bridges. China built a cross-ocean that fights back. And while passengers crossed bridges, cargo was flying through the world's busiest air freight hub, busiest air cargo airport, Hong Kong International Airport. 5 million tons of freight annually. Hong Kong International handles more air cargo than any airport on Earth, the central node where overnight shipping, global logistics, and just-in-time manufacturing converge. More goods fly through Hong Kong than anywhere else in the sky. China controls the air freight choke point of global commerce. But moving cargo through airports is two-dimensional. They were building warehouses that stacked vertically into the sky. Largest multi-level logistics building, ATL Logistics Center, 26 stories of automated warehousing. ATL Logistics Center in Hong Kong is the tallest logistics building ever constructed, stacking cargo vertically because horizontal space doesn't exist. Robotic systems move containers up and down like a vertical port. China solved land scarcity by building warehouses into the sky. And while warehouses climbed upward, communications infrastructure was embedding itself into bridges. Tallest offshore 5G tower, Lingdingyang Bridge Tower. A bridge tower doubling as a communications hub. The Lingdingyang Bridge Tower is the tallest offshore 5G transmission point ever built, proving infrastructure can multitask at scale. The tower holds up a bridge while broadcasting connectivity across the Pearl River Delta. China built structures that do two jobs because building once is more efficient than building twice. But efficiency is boring compared to pure adrenaline. Highest commercial bungee jump, Balingi Bridge Platform, 270 meters of free fall. Balingi Bridge hosts the highest commercial bungee jump on Earth, a platform where paying customers leap off a bridge deck higher than most skyscrapers are tall. The bridge became an adventure destination because the height was too extreme to waste. China turned infrastructure into an adrenaline business. And while people jumped off bridges, engineers were drilling underneath rivers at widths nobody had attempted. Widest underwater highway tunnel, Shenzhen-Zhongshan Link, 18 lanes beneath the Pearl River. The Shenzhen-Zhongshan Link features the widest underwater highway tunnel ever built, carrying more traffic underwater than entire freeways handle above ground. They submerged a highway in a river and made it wider than surface roads. China decided water wasn't a barrier, it was just another place to build roads. But underwater tunnels are stable compared to laying high-speed rail on frozen ground that moves. World's only high-speed rail on permafrost, Qinghai Tibet Railway. High-speed trains running on ground that shifts and melts. The Qinghai Tibet Railway extension operates on permafrost frozen soil that expands and contracts with temperature. They developed thermal stabilization technology to keep the ground from heaving beneath tracks carrying trains at high speed. China ran high-speed rail, where the Earth itself refuses to stay still. And if trains on shifting permafrost seem extreme, they built a hotel by digging downward instead of up. World's only underground skyscraper hotel, Shanghai Intercontinental Shimao Quarry Hotel. 88 meters down into an abandoned quarry. The Shimao Quarry Hotel is the only luxury hotel built downward into the earth, transforming an industrial scar into a subterranean resort with rooms carved into rock walls. They built a skyscraper in reverse. China proved luxury doesn't need height, depth works just as well. But building down was unusual. Building trains that function like airplanes was unprecedented. World's only sealed high-altitude passenger rail, Tibet Pressurized Train Network. Trains with airplane-style pressurization running on rails. Tibet's railway network operates pressurized passenger cars because the altitude would cause oxygen deprivation. Every car is sealed, climate-controlled, and oxygen-enriched, like a commercial aircraft, except it's on tracks. China combined aviation technology with rail to keep passengers alive where the air is too thin to breathe, and pressurized trains served a megacity paired with a port built where only ocean existed. World's only megacity with offshore man-made port, Shanghai and Yangshan Port System. A city of 25 million people connected to a port built in open ocean. Shanghai and Yangshan function as one organism, the city on land, the port on artificial islands 32 kilometers offshore, connected by the Danyang-Kunshan Bridge. No other megacity pairs with a deep-water port this far from shore. China created a city-port system that treats ocean distance as irrelevant. But one city with an offshore port is impressive. 9 cities functioning as a single mega-region is civilization-scale engineering. Largest physically interconnected megacity region, Pearl River Delta Mega Infrastructure Network. 68 million people connected by bridges, tunnels, and rails functioning as one. The Pearl River Delta isn't just dense, it's the largest interconnected urban region on Earth, where 9 cities blend into a single economic organism through infrastructure so extensive. Commuting between cities is faster than crossing some single cities. China merged multiple megacities into one functional superorganism. And they're not done. The most ambitious tunnel ever conceived is still on the drawing board. Longest planned undersea tunnel, Bohai Strait Tunnel, 123 kilometers beneath the ocean floor. The Bohai Strait Tunnel is still in planning, but when built, It will be the longest undersea tunnel ever constructed, nearly 4 times longer than the Channel Tunnel connecting England and France. China's already designing the tunnel that will make every other underwater crossing look like practice. 44 world records. 44 times they built something the rest of the world said was impossible. From dams that slow Earth's rotation to bridges that cross 55 kilometers of ocean to telescopes that listen to the edge of the universe. This is what happens when ambition meets engineering at a scale most countries can't imagine. You just watched the record book get rewritten 44 times, and half these projects didn't exist 20 years ago.